Welcome to the Demystifying Money podcast, where each week you will hear unforgettable conversations with expert guests about success, money, business, and small steps you can take to elevate your life and wealth. Now here's your host, Misty Lynch.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Demystifying Money. Today, we're going to talk about numbers and bookkeeping, and I'm here with my friend Joselyn Martinez. She is the founder of Balanced Financial Solutions in Methuen, Mass. And she works with entrepreneurs and small business owners, offering bookkeeping services, accounting clarity, and tailored financial insight, which helps them build that stable foundation that they need so their business and their finances can grow with confidence. I am excited to talk with you. I feel like bookkeeping is such a, I think it's kind of misunderstood by some business owners, wondering what they can do themselves, what they might need help with. And there's so much more to it than I think people might realize. And so Jocelyn has over 25 years of accounting experience with public and private accounting roles, and even managing complex solutions like company acquisitions and things. So I think it's so important to know that that level of expertise, the tax planning, all of this is so valuable to your business. It can be one of the biggest expenses that you have. And a lot of people really go into it, knowing what they're able to do and what they, their products, their services, and not thinking about that strategic side when it comes to the business and bookkeeping. So, Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Misty. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited. I know it's not fun to think about numbers, but it's exciting for me.
This episode of Demystifying Money with Misty Lynch is proudly sponsored by Soundview Financial Advisors. Visit www.soundviewfinancialadvisors.com to learn more.
Well, I disagree. I think it's incredibly fun, yeah. But it is something that makes a lot of people nervous. And I think we're kind of in this point, and this happens all the time with business owners. I feel like there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of focus on the economy at any time. And it's really something that if you're a business owner, you're going to experience at one point or another. And the economy is not the same for everyone. Some businesses can struggle in certain conditions where others are thriving. So how did, when it comes to, working beforehand, in public and private accounting, what made you want to take the leap to start working for yourself and starting this business where, you're working with kind of a more, I would say it has its own challenges. So what made you want to be self-employed?
It definitely has. I agree, Misty. Like it has its own challenges that we face every day. You and I both know that. Working in public and private accounting, you have that security that you're going to get up and you're going to have a job for the most part, considering the world today. Yeah. But what made me want to leave was when I delved into public accounting, was when I said, this isn't really where I want to go. I love making a difference. I love helping to make that difference. And also, I'm not sure if you could agree, Misty, there aren't very many of us at the top. So I said, I want to go out and help female business owners reach that top and make better decisions and be more confident in their numbers. And the only way I could do that was on my own rather than being in public accounting, which was the last one where I was.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And I think that there is, I have a lot of, I'm very thankful for my time working in corporate and what I learned there and what I experienced. But, when you're working in, a large firm or at a larger company, there's all sorts of different departments that handle certain things. And so when you're working for yourself, and a lot of career changers who are going from having a lot of experience in whatever field they're in, there's no marketing department, there's no accounting department, there's no finance department, there's no other, places where it all starts to kind of fall on you, where I think this is where the work that you do can be really helpful, because managing finances can feel really overwhelming for a lot of small business owners. And I'm just curious, what kind of experiences did you see that made you realize there was a clear need for this type of guidance in the small business space?
I agree with you on the fact that finance is a lot of fear associated with that. It's psychological. It's how we were raised, how we believe in money, and that translates into when we become business owners and how we run our business as far as finances are concerned. I found that there was a lot of fear, especially among women, that they didn't, for lack of better words, they were so naive about it and they just didn't want to see it.
Mhm.
So if it was green in the bank, we were good to go.
Mhm.
And so I feel that for me, I saw the need where especially female business owners, which is like, I want to make better decisions. I want to handle my books. I
Mhm.
want to handle my finances. So when I'm standing in front of whomever and I
Mhm.
want someone to invest in my company, I know what I'm talking about and I can make those decisions. So that's where I definitely found that need, and helping my own is, it gives me that great pride.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point that you make, that the fear and the anxiety, it's not necessarily, exclusive to women, but I do feel like a lot of times we are basically conditioned to look to somebody else for help. And this happens from when we're very little. And so
Mhm.
a lot of times there is that fear of, okay, who's the person I need to talk to? And a lot of times, maybe that was your dad or your uncle or somebody in your house. But I mean, basically, a lot of women didn't have a ton of financial power in the 60s, 70s. So it's not necessarily like our mother's fault or anything like that. There really just isn't a lot of people to turn to say, that's exactly how I want to model my business and act around money. So we're really kind of figuring this out in some ways, for some of us for the first time, with not a lot of, role models out there. But I do think you're right. If you go into, you might be amazing at what you do, but if you seem needy or graspy or scared, people are going to be reluctant to hand over their money and work with you. So you
Mhm.
talk about having clean books, and I'm curious, um, why is that a necessity when it comes to being able to build that confidence and step into these meetings in the way that you want to present yourself?
There's power in knowing the story behind those numbers. I know that it's a cliche, it's a saying, but the absolute truth. If you know the story behind, your numbers, if you know what's happening, if you know what's causing things to happen, you are better able to make the decisions that you want to make. And
Mhm.
then you can make the bigger decisions to make the bigger dreams come true. So it starts at the very beginning. It starts at the very bottom to continue to make your way to the top,
Mhm.
basically. The foundation is the most important thing. So if
Mhm.
you're understanding from the very beginning what makes revenue tick or what the expenses are so high, then you are better able to, especially as you mentioned at the beginning, deal with an economy that might not be so favorable to your business.
Mhm.
But if you don't know your numbers, how are you going to try and combat the economy the way that it is?
Yeah, there's so much truth to that. And I've talked to lots of different business owners on the podcast. And all of them mention the foundation and like that piece of it, from people who are, professional stylists are like, okay, but if you don't have like the basic, like the first layer of clothes you put on, I've talked to all of, coaches, and it's those basic skills. It is so important. And I think this is something that we get kind of drawn away from when we see these, maybe influencers online talking about certain advanced strategies or certain moves
Mhm.
you can make, where everyone thinks, oh, should I be doing that? Should I be doing this? And I get those questions a lot, but I do think there's a lot to the basics, knowing the foundation, knowing what's coming in, what's going out, and like that piece of it before you want to go to level 301, 501 strategies to try
Yeah.
to save on taxes. But it is kind of eye-catching, and it's something that I feel like I see all the time. Are there any like money mistakes or myths that you see small business owners make when they're managing their cash flow or tracking their finances?
Some of the money mistakes that are apparent is mingling personal and business finances together. That doesn't give you a true picture of how your business is doing.
Hmm.
You have to understand it from a business perspective, and taking those two apart can be difficult, especially at the beginning. When you're
Hmm.
setting that foundation, you need to kind of take them apart. Making decisions without knowing exactly what your numbers are, that's another one. To sort of like how you're speaking, a lot of my clients come to me and says, well, I want to invest.
Hmm.
Okay, but do you know your numbers? Let's just make sure that we're covering everything before you say, okay, I want to invest in something.
Hmm.
And I love the idea of creating sort of like passive income and
Hmm.
investing in property or investing in things of that nature. That's all awesome and great, but you have to know your numbers to be able to take those big
Hmm.
steps, to take
Yeah.
those next steps for yourself.
Right. No, that could be a lot. And yeah, and I think that's something that I hear too is people want that, but there's risks involved. And also like you have to make sure that um, you know, like the basics are covered. And also like once you do make those decisions, like to invest or to acquire a business or a property, knowing that you can afford it will help you because yes, there is that fear of missing out on a great opportunity. But then there's also the fact that this it's not as easy as it might sound creating passive income streams.
Yeah,
That usually
it's
there's a
definitely
lot of money and
true.
work involved. So that's definitely important for people. Where when somebody's maybe never organized their finances properly, say their stuff is commingled, they've just got one account and everything is there. Where do you usually tell them to start when it comes to unwinding that piece?
I definitely start very basic. Let's start at the very beginning. Let's start at a business account. Let's tear everything apart. Let's make sure that we understand what are the costs of the business?
Mhm.
What is the business making? Where is it coming from? Let's start there
Mhm.
and make sure that the paths are going to the correct places. And it takes a little bit of time.
Mhm.
It's not something you can do overnight because if you've been
Mhm.
doing it for a while, then you're sort of used to that way of running your
Yeah.
business and running your personal finances. So it takes a little bit. But if we're going to start at the very beginning, this is what I tell all new business owners. The minute you decide to have a new business, go open a business account.
Yeah.
Start there, just so
Mhm.
that you know that that's separate, and then start going from there.
Yeah, I think that some people think that that's going to keep money away from them, but I feel like most of the time when the accounts are commingled, what was for the business and what was personal is usually overlooked. And there's a lot of deductions and a lot of things that you could potentially be using for your business that you just might say, I don't know. I just went like, even if I go to Target and get things for the office, I will do a separate transaction with a separate card because that to me is not going to just be thrown into my personal if it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be. So I
Hmm.
think it is important to not see it as like a punishment or they're taking money away from me now and now it belongs to the business. It's just a matter of like keeping those records nice and clean and knowing exactly how much it costs to run your business every day, which I think a lot of people don't know and they feel like sometimes they're just getting by or they're
Yep.
making money and money's coming in, it's going out, but how do you help business owners go from just managing expenses to having like a strategic plan for where their money's going to go and growth plans for that business?
I'm a big on education.
Hmm.
Definitely, it's something that I'm not just, let's just do the transactional piece. Let's educate. Let's help you understand as soon as we are able to set up very solid books. Now we're going to help you understand what the numbers mean. So now you want to understand what a P&L means, what a
Hmm.
balance sheet means, things of those natures. Then we're able to strategically plan. So if this is costing this much, to this revenue, where can we lower that?
Hmm.
Or do we really have to increase revenue? Are we operating on a lean expenses and now we have to look at revenue? So that's having solid books will give you solid financial reports and then you can plan strategically
Yeah.
from there.
When you have a business that say is growing, but their revenue fluctuates, and I know this is something that I was very familiar with growing up, where it was money would come in and then there would be these dry spells where we wouldn't have jobs or have anything coming in for a while. How do you help business owners build that resilience to avoid cash flow pitfalls, especially if they're in a seasonal type of business or something that might have slow like extended slower periods of time?
Definitely. I have a few clients that have seasonal
Mhm.
businesses. That's what they have a passion for. And what we talk about is how can we increase revenue in the times that it's slow? How can we create passive income so that we can fill those gaps? And we also want to make sure that remember, revenue doesn't equal cash flow. Just
Mhm.
because you sell something in 1 month doesn't mean the cash is coming in.
Mhm.
So we also talk about creating payment plans for their clients so that they're always getting paid, even though the
Mhm.
revenue is it's within 1 month. We're not going to get the money in that month. We're going to try and space it out so that we're always having cash flow come in.
Mhm.
We also talk about what do we need to run the business at the bare minimum when revenue is low so that we then don't have such a big hit.
Yeah, that's definitely smart. And I think there's a lot of businesses that just happen. I know I work with some, wedding makeup artists and photographers, and their business might be done in a few months. So I love that idea of creating passive income or some other thing. So what are some types of like passive income that somebody who's in like a service-based business or, maybe something seasonal, what are some things that you've thought of or that they've started to do to bring in income during those slow periods of time?
They can always do a subscription, they can do
Hmm.
courses, they can do webinars, sort of like teaching out.
Hmm.
That taking the what you are an expert in and teaching someone else that, or creating, like I said, courses for
Hmm.
them. Those are some of the ways to kind of bridge that gap in between. Even myself, so I run my business, but I'm also an instructor
Hmm.
at my at Southern New Hampshire University.
Okay.
So I still have that. And I've
Hmm.
had it for years, and I've always wanted to be a teacher when I was a little girl. So it's it's making
Yeah.
that dream come true. But that's also income for me. I do it
Hmm.
from my home. It's online. I don't, you know what I mean? So there
Right.
are multiple ways to be able to create that income, that passive income. So it's not taking away from you completely,
Hmm.
but it's filling the gap.
Yeah. I think it's important, like you said, that side income or other income. It's not, maybe it's work. Maybe it's not necessarily just like, I have people that are like, I want to create passive income streams. And I say, okay, invest in the stock market because you're literally handing your money over and you're doing nothing. And they're like, no, like I want to like do stuff. I'm like, all right, this is just another income stream and I love it. But it's funny because I feel like passive income has gotten this like reputation of being like, you know, low touch. And I'm like, no,
Right.
that's, even a rental property is going to involve some work and some maintenance. But I love the idea of having multiple income streams. After you get real good at income stream number one, I think that's super important too, because sometimes I'll see business owners that want to do everything. Maybe they want
Mhm.
to teach and coach and work, but they haven't really dialed into that main income stream. Do you see that sometimes? And like, how important is it for people to, really focus on that core business before adding on, so that they are actually able to be profitable?
Yeah, I definitely see that. I definitely see that. I think, some clients just get so excited about
Hmm.
being able to do
Yeah.
so many things. And I definitely have seen that. And this is where, again, good books will show you, I
Hmm.
mean, you're not really making a whole lot of money in income stream number one. And this is
Yeah.
supposed to be the forever business. This
Hmm.
is supposed to be the business that grows. We need to focus on this and make sure that this is functioning before we go into all of the other income ideas.
Hmm.
That's very, very important. I've also seen that people will take from the business to support all the other income ideas. I
Yes.
also don't think that that's the greatest thing unless you
No.
can make sure that you're getting a
Mm.
fabulous rate of return on what you're
Yeah.
investing in.
Right.
That's also very, very risky as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
I also have clients that I want to have like 10 lines of products or 10
Mm.
lines of services. Or you need to narrow it down to what you're really, really good at
Mhm.
and what really can sell before you like deplete everything and go everywhere with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think another coach I spoke to once was saying that it's like, a lot of people come in and they're like building a strip mall instead of like a skyscraper,
Yeah.
where it's like building out where it is. It's like spreading out everything and trying to do this and that. And so it's interesting. And I mean, I have done the same thing, but it's interesting to see like, okay, well, how does it make sense? And I think that's what's important to talk with somebody like you to say, okay, these are my ideas. And then to have a sounding board to be like, okay, yeah, if you do this, it might bring in clients to business A, and then how it can all work together. Because sometimes it's exciting, and then you take a course, and I am guilty of taking a lot of courses.
Yeah,
I
I
love
think we
them.
all are. I think we
I
all
love
are.
them. Education like that. So I'll get this and be like, yeah, I can do this. I should do this, or I should go get certified in this because this was helpful. And like, it can be very, very exciting, but a little bit distracting. But I
Yes.
think I think those are really good points. I'm curious though, because we touched on a little bit of the fear and the scariness, and I think it's normal for all business owners to have these moments where we think like, should I just stop? Should I just give it up, go back to, finding a job? And I mean, I've worked with so many people that I feel like there really is no safe safety anymore. You are in charge of your own financial future. You can get laid off, you could get sick, all of these things can happen. So it's really important, whether you're self-employed or working for somewhere else, to like be in control of your money and your numbers. How do you help, clients kind of shift that mindset from fear and avoidance over to empowerment? Because that can be, if you don't believe that it's going to be successful or take off, there's lots of ways that you can prevent that from happening. And so I think it is that mindset is one of the most important pieces that we can handle. So what are some things that you see or that you talk through with clients to help them get past that? Because it's not just closing your eyes and thinking about
Mhm.
abundance.
Yeah. Oh, I wish it was, but
I wish it
it's not.
was.
Um, Simply stated, building confidence. So what's going to, increase that fear is not knowing and being confused and
Mhm.
not looking, um, and having a blind eye and
Mhm.
thinking because you know what I mean, this week it's green in the bank, I'm good, we're good to
Mhm.
go. So in order to make my clients or help my clients feel empowered is to build their confidence in their numbers. It may not look pretty, and
Mhm.
half the time it doesn't. You know what I mean? Because it all
Yeah.
depends on what's happening in the economy. Having a business is not easy. It's tough. You many times will feel all alone. You're running
Mhm.
many hats, other than what you desire to do to help build this, business, this dream that you have. So to building their confidence helps them make better decisions. And if the numbers don't look pretty, then we can strategize and make them look better so that you can continue this business, continue it going.
Yeah.
Or if you need to add things, then we know that. But if you're just ignoring it, it's just going to fester that fear that you have.
Mhm. And also there can be this urge, especially when somebody brings you on, to be like, okay, now you do it. It's your
Hmm.
job. And I think that you mentioned the education piece and kind of that working together being really important to you, because there are some things that you can't really fully outsource away. But a lot of times that is, the first thought is I'll bring on people to do this, this, and this. And sometimes people bring on too much before they're ready to try to
Hmm.
buy the solution and get their way there. I do think bookkeeping is one of the first parts that, if you are looking to move budget somewhere,
Hmm.
usually I think that that's one of the smartest places to look first, to then decide, okay, can I afford this marketing tool? Can I afford this and that?
Yep.
But how do you kind of wrap in that education piece, especially if someone's reluctant to it and really just wants you to do it?
Yeah, accounting isn't fun, as I said, and it can be quite scary to look at because a lot of people just don't understand it. I mean, talking about debits and credits, it's like, what's that? In the banking world, it means totally different than in the accounting world. So people get very confused. It's a love-hate
Mhm.
relationship. So sitting with them, explaining it to them. Some people just need a little bit more explaining. I have that patience and that
Mhm.
empathy for them to be like, this is important. I know that it's important, and I'm going to make sure that you understand because it's important to you.
Mhm.
So that educational piece is very like I can gauge how my client feels about it. Some clients absolutely love it. Like they want more of it.
Mhm.
And then there are others that you kind of have to ease slow because they get confused and then they just get turned off.
Yeah.
And then they won't learn anything and they're not able to feel that confidence to make those decisions. So that's where the educational piece comes in for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah, it's so important. And even if it's, yeah, they don't have to learn how to do it themselves. But I feel
Hmm.
like even with some of my clients, like I want them to know why we're invested in what we're in and what we're doing. And, sometimes it's just sending a monthly video about this is what's happening today. And like, I think that it kind of sinks in because it is important, because a lot of times people can get burned if they're really hands off and they're not sure what's going on, and then they're like, oh, like there's a problem. And that can be really unfortunate for some business owners who
Yeah.
maybe are very trusting or maybe want to try to just outsource everything that they can. So I love that you make that an important piece of the process.
Yes.
If someone's balancing multiple financial priorities, maybe they've been in business a while and they're trying to grow, they're trying to pay themselves, they're trying to pay taxes. How do you help them kind of build out that plan that feels manageable? I get a lot of questions about, should I change my tax status? Should I do this? And and a lot of times business owners just don't really know what's the best step for them. So what do you take a look at there?
We actually have discussions about prioritizing. Let's prioritize what's important, what's absolute. So when we come to taxes, that's an absolute. So we need to make sure and I definitely have resources for them to where if I can't help, there are others that I have that can help them sort of like in the tax realm and
Mhm.
making sure that that's all set to go first. So we strategize and we prioritize. We also sit down and we dream and we have goals. What is your goal? I
Mhm.
want to pay myself. Okay, so how much do you want to pay yourself? What's the bare minimum that you need to pay yourself to be able
Mhm.
to live off your business, to have a life off of it? And then we go from there. Where do you want to be in a year? Where do we want to be in 5 years? So then we strategize on how to get there.
Yeah. What are some things if you I know we're entering a new year, if there's like a few things that you believe every small business owner could do within the next 90 days or quarter to get their financial house in order, even if they feel overwhelmed now, what are some things that they can do to help them feel a little bit differently this year?
Okay, I would definitely, as we alluded to earlier, if we're mixing, separate.
Hmm.
Let's treat the business as a business. It will help you actually feel much better about your business. It'll help you feel like you're a business owner. That's one of the first things I would say.
Hmm.
A lot of new business owners can't afford to hire someone like me. Okay, that's fine. Then take a course that will help
Hmm.
you understand at the very basic what is happening so that you can understand what's happening in your books. I would definitely, and if you don't have a system, get one. Even if it's Excel, if it's Google Sheets, get a system so that way there you can see it. Because
Yeah.
running a business and you don't see it, you don't see the numbers, it's not really running a business.
No, I agree. And I think a lot of times it's very normal to think of the business as like an extension of yourself. And I've seen this
Mhm.
quite a bit. But I do think that at some point there will be a time maybe where you can't or you don't want to work anymore. So having a business that is separate from you, from the books, from the everything is so important because yes, maybe you love the business and it's your baby and you'll never ever want to leave it. But I think that a lot of business owners then eventually get to the point where they can't sell it, they're not sure how to value it, their numbers don't look good. So I think it's important, to always kind of have a bit of an exit strategy in mind when it
Mhm.
comes to the business. Are
Mhm.
there any things that you think business owners should watch out for, even in the way that they think about the business, to kind of get them to separate it from their personality and their whole, the way that they see themselves, in case they ever do want to sell the business and retire?
We discussed this quite a bit, especially when we're like goal planning and looking at what we want for the future. I tell my clients a lot of the times, what's your end game? Where do you want to end up with your business? We discussed this is a business, but it's not going to be forever, and you don't want to do it forever, right? I know that people think they do, but the reality is that eventually you do want to either some want to hand it off to their children, and
Mhm.
how is that going to happen? And others they just want to sell it.
Mhm.
And so, but how are we going to sell it, and what is the value in your industry to be able to sell it?
Mhm.
So having that conversation helps them thinking about it as, okay, this is my business. This is not my life.
Right.
That's hard when you're wearing the hats that kind of merge together, I would
Mhm.
say. So sort of like you never leave your business, especially when you're working from home.
Yeah.
You have to be able to separate those two hats
Mhm.
and having that conversation and be like, okay, this isn't going to be a part of me forever. So I have
Right.
to think in that way.
Yeah, I think it is important, that it isn't your identity, that there is this, I keep, my businesses are separate, but I do understand that feeling that, but I think the first step you mentioned, even getting a separate business account, like puts it outside of like, there's like
Yep.
it removes it slightly. And so I think that's really important, even for business owners that do plan to work for a long time, um, yeah, to make sure that they try to do that and keep things, a little bit separate. So very important there. For listeners who want to learn more about balanced financial solutions, get help, or maybe schedule a financial clarity audit, what is one of the best ways to connect with you?
Definitely one of the best ways to connect with me is right on my website. It's www.balancefinancial.solutions. Right on there, I have all my services. You can connect with me directly through there. You can also follow me on my Instagram page for all the latest and the greatest, which is balance_financial. And then my email at info@balancefinancial.solutions.
Thank you so much. So, looking ahead as a small business owner or freelancers, as they navigate in the economy and uncertainty that's bound to happen, what is a financial habit or mindset that you believe is going to matter the most for long-term success?
Don't ignore. Don't
Mm.
ignore your books. That's the
Yeah.
long-term success. Even if it doesn't look the way that you want it to look, as long as you're looking at it, you can make the decisions you need to make it better.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jocelyn, for joining me. And I will put all of those links to our website and to her social media in the show notes. And if you're thinking about making some changes as far as, what can you do for your business, or if you're looking at your own personal financial plan and you want to see how all of this comes together and all of the moving parts, head over to mistylynch.com. I would love to share, to speak with you about this, or you can find other episodes of the podcast or my book if you're looking to work on your own financial health. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll talk again next week.
Thank you.
Don't forget to share with friends and family, and together let's demystify the world of money. Knowledge is the key to financial empowerment.